Ladies and gentlemen, life doesn't always go according to our plans. We imagine a perfect world, perfect outcomes, perfect timing, but reality often writes a different story. In these moments, we feel stuck, broken, angry, or confused. But there's one powerful truth that can set us free: acceptance. Accepting the situation doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging reality, releasing the pain of resistance, and choosing to move forward with strength and wisdom. Every setback, every loss, every change comes with a hidden lesson and a new direction. When we stop fighting what already is, we open our hearts to what can be. You see, the past cannot be changed, but the present is ours to shape. When we accept, we grow. When we accept, we heal. When we accept, we rise again. Before you can move on, you must come to terms with what has happened. Zendavin. Denial and resistance only prolong the pain. Acceptance helps you face reality and allows emotional healing to begin. It's like unclenching your fist. You let go of the struggle and create space for peace. Life is unpredictable. You may plan meticulously, work tirelessly, and still face unexpected setbacks. Accepting that you don't have control over everything gives you peace. What you do control is how you respond. And that's where your power lies. When we refuse to accept a situation, we add layers of emotional suffering on top of the actual event. The breakup hurts, but it's the refusal to accept it that breaks us further. The job loss is hard, but clinging to what's gone stops us from seeking new doors. Acceptance removes that extra pain. Many people confuse acceptance with weakness or agreement, but you don't have to like something to accept it. You can accept a betrayal, a failure, a disappointment, and still know it was wrong or painful. Acceptance just means you're done reliving it and are now ready to move forward. Some of the biggest personal growth moments come after accepting painful situations. Once the emotional storm clears, you start to see new paths, new strengths, and new versions of yourself emerging. You become wiser, more resilient, and more grounded. Staying stuck in the past drains your energy. Obsessing over a what if or a why me leaves you emotionally exhausted. The moment you decide to accept and move on, you reclaim your mental space, your calm and your focus. You become lighter, freer, and more present. When you're holding on to what's lost, your hands are full. Only when you let go can you reach for something new. Life is full of fresh beginnings, but you must first be willing to leave the past behind. Acceptance creates the emotional room to receive what's coming next. Sometimes, to move on, we must forgive, not necessarily for others, but for ourselves. Forgiveness doesn't justify wrongs. It simply releases you from being emotionally chained to someone else's actions. It's an act of emotional liberation. You forgive, you accept, and you grow beyond it. When life deals us a painful blow, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, failure in our career, or a deep personal disappointment, our first instinct is often to resist. We replay the event in our minds, question why it happened, and wish it had turned out differently. But the truth is, no amount of overthinking or emotional turmoil can reverse what has already happened. What's done is done. And this is where acceptance becomes not just important, but essential. Acceptance doesn't mean you're okay with the pain or that you're happy about the outcome. It simply means you acknowledge the reality of the situation without judgment or denial. It is about saying, yes, this happened. I may not like it, I may not understand it, but it is what it is. That acknowledgement is the doorway to healing. When you accept the situation, you stop exhausting yourself by fighting against it. You allow your heart and mind to begin processing the emotions rather than suppressing them. You start to feel lighter, not because the pain has disappeared, but because you've stopped adding resistance to it. Think of emotional healing like treating a wound. If you keep picking at it, refusing to clean or dress it properly because you're angry it exists, the wound won't heal. It'll get worse. Acceptance is like cleaning the wound. It's the first step in recovery, and it sets the stage for deeper healing to begin. Only when you make peace with reality can you start the journey toward emotional clarity, personal growth, and inner strength. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is that no matter how hard we try, we simply cannot control everything. We live in a world that constantly changes. People change, circumstances shift, plans fall apart, and outcomes don't always reflect our intentions or efforts. And while we might crave control to feel safe or certain, life rarely gives us that luxury. You can't control how others think, feel, or behave. You can't control external events like sudden job losses, health issues, natural disasters, or the unexpected turns that life takes. Sometimes even your best effort won't yield the results you hoped for. That's not a failure on your part. It's just the reality of living in an unpredictable world. What we often forget is that control is an illusion. We might plan every step of our lives meticulously, but the universe doesn't follow our blueprints, and when things don't go according to plan, we often blame ourselves or others, falling into frustration, guilt, or anger. But all of that only deepens the pain. Instead of clinging to the illusion of control, we must learn to focus on what we can control: our actions, our attitude, our mindset, our response to adversity. That's where our true power lies. You can't stop a storm from coming, but you can decide whether to hide from it or dance in the rain. You can't stop people from letting you down, but you can choose not to let it poison your peace. The moment you realize that you cannot and do not need to control everything is the moment you start to feel lighter, calmer, and more present. You begin to free yourself from the pressure of making everything perfect and allow life to unfold as it's meant to. Surrendering control isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the courage to trust that even in uncertainty, you will be okay. When something painful or unexpected happens in life, our natural reaction is often resistance. We push back mentally and emotionally. We keep telling ourselves, this shouldn't have happened, or why me? We cling to how things should have been rather than accepting how they are. This resistance, though it feels like we are protecting ourselves, actually creates more suffering than the original situation. Think of emotional pain like a wave. If you stand rigidly against it, trying to block it, it knocks you over and drags you down. But if you let it pass through you, if you acknowledge its presence without trying to fight it, you remain balanced. The wave loses its power. Resistance is like trying to block that wave. It's exhausting, and ultimately, it makes the impact worse. Let's say someone you trusted betrayed you. The betrayal itself is painful, but the constant mental struggle, reliving what happened, asking a why did they do this, imagining how it could have been different. These thoughts create a loop of suffering that often lasts longer than the betrayal itself. The same goes for rejection, failure, or loss. The event hurts, but our resistance multiplies the pain by keeping us stuck in a cycle of denial, blame, and emotional paralysis. This kind of resistance not only affects our emotional health, but also clouds our judgment. It delays our ability to make peace with what happened and prevents us from seeing any possible good that might come out of the situation. We get trapped in a mental war zone, fighting battles that no longer need to be fought. True strength lies in knowing when to stop fighting reality. Letting go of resistance doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It simply means you're choosing peace over constant struggle. You're choosing to allow the pain to move through you rather than letting it control and consume you. When resistance fades, clarity returns. And with clarity comes the ability to move forward with grace and strength. One of the biggest misunderstandings about acceptance is the belief that if we accept something, it means we're okay with it, that we're condoning it, supporting it, or saying it was meant to be. But acceptance is not the same as approval. It doesn't mean you liked what happened or that you agree with the outcome. It simply means you acknowledge the reality of a situation so that you can stop being emotionally stuck in it. You might not approve of the way someone treated you. You might not agree with how unfairly life unfolded in a certain moment. You might even feel deeply hurt or betrayed, and that's completely valid. Acceptance doesn't invalidate your pain or dismiss your feelings. Instead, it gives you the emotional space to honor your experience without letting it control your future. For example, imagine a situation where you were wrongfully blamed or misunderstood. You don't have to approve of the injustice or pretend it didn't affect you. But by accepting it, you stop fighting the past. You stop waiting for an apology that may never come. You stop living in a loop of resentment and instead begin focusing on your own healing, growth, and direction. Acceptance, in this sense, is a boundary you draw for your peace. It says, I will no longer carry this with me every day. I will no longer give power to something I cannot change. That doesn't mean forgetting what happened, and it certainly doesn't mean excusing it. It means detaching your identity and your energy from an event that no longer serves you. When we confuse acceptance with approval, we delay our healing. We think that letting go means letting someone off the hook. But real acceptance is about letting yourself off the hook, freeing your mind from constant replay, freeing your heart from emotional chaos, and reclaiming your focus. It's an inner choice, a decision to stop arguing with what already is, so you can begin the journey of moving forward, wiser, stronger, and more grounded than before. Some of the most profound personal growth we experience doesn't come during easy times. It comes after we've walked through difficulty, faced disappointment, or endured loss. But that growth can only begin once we accept what has happened. Without acceptance, we stay stuck in the past, rehashing what went wrong, resisting what we cannot change, and blocking the very lessons the situation might be trying to teach us. When we finally accept a painful truth, whether it's the end of a relationship, a failed plan, or a sudden life shift, we stop spending energy trying to rewrite what's already written. That moment of surrender creates space for reflection, and reflection is where growth lives. You begin to ask different questions, not it must be buried in darkness before it can break open and reach the light. Similarly, human growth often begins in those dark, difficult moments where everything seems uncertain. Acceptance is what allows the seed of growth to break open. It allows us to see clearly, to understand ourselves more deeply, and to recognize strengths we didn't know we had. People who have grown the most in life, those who show wisdom, resilience, and compassion, are often the ones who have faced hardship and accepted it. They didn't let pain define them. They let it refine them. They took the broken pieces and built something new, something better. It's in acceptance that we discover our adaptability. We learn to reshape our goals, rethink our values, and rebuild our self-worth. We realize that growth isn't about avoiding pain, it's about learning how to carry it with grace. Through acceptance, we develop emotional maturity, inner peace, and a new kind of strength that doesn't come from avoiding struggle, but from surviving it and rising above it. Holding on to pain, regrets, and past situations is like carrying a heavy backpack that you never set down. At first, you might not notice the weight, but over time it drains your energy, clouds your thinking, and emotionally exhausts you. You begin to feel stuck, not because life isn't moving, but because you aren't allowing yourself to move forward. That's why moving on after acceptance is so vital. It frees you emotionally and mentally to begin again with clarity and strength. When we refuse to let go, we keep replaying the same scenarios in our minds. We relive the heartbreak, the mistake, the failure, or the betrayal, hoping we can somehow rewrite the ending in our heads. But this constant mental rehashing only deepens our pain. It keeps us tethered to something we can no longer change. The mind becomes cluttered with the what-ifs, and our emotions remain tied to moments that are already gone. Moving on is not a sign that you no longer care. It's a sign that you care enough about your own peace, your own growth, and your own life to stop letting the past consume you. It's a declaration that your emotional freedom matters more than endlessly revisiting old wounds. And when you truly begin to let go, something shifts inside you. You start to feel lighter. You begin to think more clearly. Your heart starts to open to the present moment and the opportunities around you. Mentally, moving on allows you to refocus your energy. Instead of wasting your thoughts on things beyond your control, you begin to invest them in things that matter. Your goals, your passions, your relationships, your well-being. Emotionally, it creates space for peace, for calm, and eventually for joy. You begin to realize that peace was never out there. It was always within you, just buried beneath the noise of the past. Letting go and moving on is one of the most liberating acts of self-respect. It doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means refusing to let it steal your present and your future. It's a mental and emotional reset, a chance to breathe deeply, think clearly, and finally feel free. Often, we don't realize how tightly we're clinging to something until we try to move forward and suddenly feel stuck. Whether it's a failed relationship, a mischance, a personal mistake, or a past identity, we sometimes hold on because it feels familiar, even if it no longer serves us. But the truth is, you can't receive what's next if your hands still full of what's already gone. Letting go is not just about closure. It's about creating space. And in that space, new opportunities begin to appear. When you're mentally and emotionally attached to the past, your vision becomes narrow. You may not even notice the new doors that are opening right in front of you because you're too busy staring at the one that closed. But when you finally decide to release your grip, to truly let go, you shift your focus forward. You begin to see life not just for what it was, but for what it can become. Letting go is an act of faith. It's a declaration that even though the past may have been meaningful, it doesn't define your entire story. It's the choice to believe that something better, something more aligned with your growth and truth, might be waiting for you. It could be a new relationship, a different career path, a chance to rediscover yourself, or a fresh perspective that changes everything. The beauty is, new opportunities often don't just appear out of nowhere. They were always there, quietly waiting for your attention. But your emotional attachment to what's behind you can blur your ability to see them. The moment you let go, your energy shifts. You become more open, more aware, and more willing to explore paths you may have previously ignored. Letting go also helps you to stop repeating cycles. When you cling to the past, you often carry old fears, patterns, and assumptions into your future. But when you release that weight, you free yourself to make different choices, healthier, wiser, and more empowering ones. You give yourself permission to evolve, to grow beyond your past limitations, and to invite new beginnings that are better suited for who you're becoming. In essence, letting go isn't about loss, it's about gain. It's about giving yourself the freedom to step into a new version of life, one that you may not have imagined yet, but one that is full of possibility, promise, and purpose. Star. Forgiveness is often one of the most difficult yet most powerful acts we can engage in, and it is deeply intertwined with the process of acceptance. When we are wronged, hurt, betrayed, or disappointed by someone, or even by ourselves, it's natural to hold on to the pain. We replay events in our minds, harbor resentment, and hope for justice or an apology that may never come. But in doing so, we imprison ourselves in emotional suffering. Forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. To forgive doesn't mean you are erasing the hurt or saying what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you approve of the betrayal or agree with the injustice. What it does mean is that you are choosing to no longer carry the burden of anger, hatred, or regret in your heart. You are choosing peace over pain. And that is a form of deep acceptance. Accepting that what happened cannot be changed, that justice may never look the way you want it to, and that healing is more important than revenge. Sometimes the person we need to forgive is not someone else, it's ourselves. It's ourselves. We hold on to guilt for past mistakes, poor decisions, or missed opportunities. We become our harshest critics, endlessly punishing ourselves for being imperfect. But self-forgiveness is just as crucial. It is an act of compassion, an acknowledgement that we are human, learning, growing, and worthy of redemption. Forgiveness helps break emotional chains. As long as you hold on to resentment, you are emotionally tethered to the person or event that hurt you. You may think about them daily, feel angry in quiet moments, or let their actions shape your self-worth. But when you forgive, you take that power back. You accept what happened. You release the emotional grip, and you allow yourself to move forward. Forgiveness also creates emotional space for healthier relationships and a more peaceful inner life. When your heart is not burdened by unresolved anger or bitterness, it becomes lighter, freer, and more open. You respond to life with more grace. You stop defining your present through the lens of past pain, and that emotional clarity opens the door to joy, empathy, and a deeper sense of personal strength. So, my friends, life will not always be fair. It will not always go according to your plans. There will be setbacks, losses, heartbreaks, and unexpected turns. But in every one of those moments, you have a choice to resist, to suffer, to stay stuck, or to accept, to grow, and to move forward. Acceptance is not about weakness, it's about strength. It's about strength. It's about having the courage to look reality in the eye, make peace with it, and then take the next step, no matter how small. Because every time you choose to accept and let go, you reclaim your power, your peace, and your future. Remember, what's behind you is already written. What's ahead of you is waiting to be shaped, and only by letting go of the past can you truly embrace the life that still lies ahead. Accept the situation, learn from it, let it go, and move on, not because you have to, but because you deserve to.